Weimar Republic, the story so far, yeah. So, after the first failed playthrough, we learned that, look, the coalition, the conservatives have to work fairly hard if the coalition is going for an automatic victory. They were better set up for it in the coalition was, in the previous game. In this one, they've been focused more on the economy. They've lost a lot of political power. They're down to just 2 successes because there were assassinations and whatnot. They're more fragile than I thought they were. And they can't really afford to press the progress. Using assassinations is a powerful tool that the Nazis and the conservatives have. And it definitely has weakened their position. Although I'm not sure they would have won, say, Prussia, where one of the assassinations was, and they certainly would not have won the southern states, where another one was. I think that would have gone communist, to be honest, but I'm not positive. Yeah, I think it did. And I've got the political value. I leave that in place just because it gives me an idea of, what the relative strengths are. There is some danger that somebody could win the game if the coalition is this weak. Yeah. Otherwise, we've got some sort of split control. Nazis have Hamburg. The communists have succeeded in the northern states, and like I said, they would have gotten the southern states as well. And Prussia, I think, would have gone coalition, but again, this time there's going to be 3 election cards in the sequence, and we'll see how things work out. There are no lingering events that kept over. The coalition used up its Article 48 to prevent something that would have helped the Nazis. Since they're in second place, I don't want to take any chances with them. Here's the thing. At about this time in the last game, I was already thinking about people going for the overall victory. Right now, the automatic victory. Right now, it's only the Nazis who are really in a position where they're potentially able to do that. And as long as this doesn't move up, it can't. The Nazis can't get a cadre, which means that they have trouble getting middle class. They have no action which will give them middle class support. So that's kind of a big thing. Now, on the other hand, the coalition, although I think I cheated, is unable to get middle class support. They grabbed one. That means they can't fix their unity problem. So they kind of have to push progress up a space at some point. But I'm having trouble finding leverage. I'm using it all up on the economy, and that may not be wise, but it allowed me to keep placing influence, but that wasn't really helping me. Like, I got beat on the elections for the most part. All I have is 2 cities, Cologne and Berlin, because so much of my effort was actually in Prussia, and I've also been beaten. The communists are doing relatively well politically. Does that mean that they want to accept the Democratic side? I don't know. Cadres are useful to them, but I'm really not so sure that either side wants to move towards democracy unless they feel like they can't win through their automatic victory conditions. And in the case of the communists, well, they need a bunch of uprisings, which, in order to do that, they need to be all the way on revolution. And in order to win the game, they need to be all the way on revolution. using the auto victory, the sudden victory. And I'm just not all that convinced that cadres are terribly useful to them, and they actually have a cadre available to them if they want it. Anyway, that's where we are. I'm going to get me a nap. If I wake up in time, I will head down to the bar and get my pouch and keys back. It's midnight on Monday now. I went on a nice walk back to the bar in here. Kind of dawdled a little bit, but it took about 3 hours. So I understand why it takes so long to get home. I rush on my way there, I think, or hurry at least. Hasten. But I got my pouch. My keys weren't there. That sucked. No great magic happened on the way back. Had some hopes for whatever reason. But then when I did get back, the outside light that I had that is turning off unexplainedly, like when it's set to not turn off, just like the one out here, I figured it had degraded and wasn't working or whatever. Well, tonight when I went out for my sunset walk, it was still on when I got back, which it wouldn't have been any previous light today. So I don't understand what the hell's going on. But anyway, here we are, starting off the new Golden 20s. It's early year. I got my order set. I'll try and get a little bit played. I napped a little bit. It's past midnight already on Monday, so I don't know, to test the light out here just because. And no, it still doesn't work right. It turns off after about 5 seconds. I'm going to do something a little weird. They're playing League of Nations, which has no effect because its prerequisite isn't in play yet. Building themselves, if they're allowed to. They may not be allowed to. I bet you they're not. They have to have dominance. I can put it somewhere. I'll put it here. And then doing a move units action, because they don't have to all start at the same place. The action is completed at the same time. Flipping supremacy to us, but we are also bigger. Well, we're also in a fight with the Nazis. We have 3, they have 1. And we only caused 1 hit. I was hoping to wipe out some of their influence markers there. Felt like, this would be cool. But one of the things we get out of it is the momentum marker, which I don't know how big a deal it is. We don't really care too much about it, but whatever. We're going to hold on to the northern state control. We don't have any election cards, so we may not really want to wait too long to play it. But we know that there's 3 out there, so we can kind of hold off a little bit. Conservatives are also going violent at this point. They've got the Paul von Hindenburg card that raises their Freikorps to SV3 from 2. Black leverages become more valuable, +4 bonus. That'll be impressive. We might be able to do some really cool stuff with all this. I am going to then do a place unit action, I believe here, and then the move units action, shifting into here, giving us supremacy, and here, giving us supremacy. And also very much threatening the coalition Freikorps. Remember, this thing is going to stay out if it fails a loyalty test, which I think it's guaranteed to do because reaction is higher. So that's a massive threat. We also have a very interesting handful of cards. I think we've got a shot at winning through the special conservative election with the cards we have. We'll see what we can do. Card Strasserism, required for and canceled by Gregor Strasser resigns. Great, whatever. But Strasser, oh no, Strassman. Okay. Gotcha. Never mind then. Left-wing National Socialism. Okay. It also has desires for militaristic actions of some sort. I am going to place a military unit in Berlin, which I can do. I have parliamentary control. That brings me to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 versus 9. So that supremacy switches back over. But that doesn't necessarily defend me from potential attacks. Those Freikorps will still overwhelm my forces. I don't know. I can't do this. I cannot do it. I don't know. I have to look at my cards. Because maybe I have to move out. Move pieces would be allowable. I could set myself up in a position where I could attack the communist advantage, thus grabbing momentum for free with some damage. Back what we do. We're not playing a card. I don't know. We could play a card, do some serious damage there, and grab momentum, but we don't really want the momentum all that badly. I don't know. I mean, why move my pieces if I'm not going to attack? Playing Bertolt Brecht after this, I don't want to screw up my ordering. And so I've got 6-2 against the communists. Well, neither of us did anything, so I do not get the momentum I was hoping for. There's no KPD cadres, so it has no effect, but I feel like I wasted my turn, like I should have just done the move, but I got the same effect, ended up throwing a card away for it. You're going to play this prestigious housing project. Coalition gets to make a move middle class sympathies. Well, they can't because they don't have the leverage there. And there are no others available. And then there's, if there's one or more reforms on the map, there isn't. So this was a card that I think that they're probably going to move those things. So I don't want to, I don't want to be holding this card and give them some advantage. And then I'm going to assassinate them and drop a cube in there, increasing my political power. That flips us. I make sure that the end of turn stuff, I think end of turn, I gotta remember. End of turn gets rid of assassinations where the coalition has units. And that's it. So, I'm going to break there. I know I didn't do very much, but I'm feeling kind of slow and whatnot. And my pipe's out. Monday morning. There's a nice sunrise. Real pretty. Brings to mind that I just wasted like 3 or 4 hours. But back to playing. Get some sleep at some point. Not sure what the value of a cadre is for the KPD. I mean, yeah, it has minor capabilities, but the cadres here are important, I think, because they allow for middle-class sympathies to be gathered, which is a very powerful move for them because they can steal them directly from the radical conservatives. Great. The communist cadres, I don't see much value to them, to be honest, because the communists can place influence where there's presence. Now, the Nazis can as well, but I mean, a cadre lets me do all kinds of things that presence allows me to do, is kind of what it comes down to. And it's less powerful on the voting procedure, but and it does have some addition to conflicts, the assaults, and it gives a slight edge in the voting, I believe. Just check this. Oh, it actually gives a +2. That's not bad. But it's yeah, it does count for winning the space, I think. But it doesn't count for dominance. And dominance is important. I'm having a hard time figuring out what to do with the communists. I have cards that I can play, and they're the first ones. I have cards I can play that might have an effect later on that I don't want to have happen. But I'm also thinking I might want to withhold my cards so that I have more power later on. I don't have an election card. There seem to only be 2 election cards in this deck. I thought there were 3. I'm not sure. And that's not listed here in the playbook. But if there are only 2, great. If there are more, which is what I thought there were, well, I've kind of been arguing they shouldn't all be coming out every time anyway. Not play a card, but I'll play my northern states and get 2 pips here. I'm having a problem coping with a couple of these cards. Communists had this Thomas Mann. The coalition performs a number of place influence equal to the difference between progress and reaction. Okay. You know, it helps the coalition. I assumed it's not the absolute value of the difference. It says between progress and reaction, so I think progress is the positive, reaction's the negative. So that's one of those cards that I thought wouldn't have any effect. But then I see this other one. Some kind of cunt. Reactions to degenerate culture. That sounds like it's good for the conservatives. Actually, I think this is fine. That faction can perform any combination of place influence and remove influence up to the difference between progress and reaction. And again, it would make sense if progress is higher because it's a reaction to the progress. So, okay. I was just thinking, it's a good card for them. Yeah, but they've got to let progress go higher. They're probably never going to do that. RC is going to try to win through a combination of cards that require them to basically win an election. This is a very powerful card for them. RC gets to perform an action. Remember, playing a card gives me 2 actions. Then this gives an action. Then if reaction is greater than progress, which it will be, I can place an influence in any city. So that's a nice combination of things that I get to do. I don't know how absolutely valuable it is to me. Because placing an influence isn't taking an influence action, I removed a communist from here and placed one in that city. That gives me dominance in that city. And then I spread not sure exactly where. I think here and there. Grabbing a couple more locations that I have political value to. All right, this is interesting. It says may not be played if an election card has already been played this round. I don't think that's entirely true. Like, I think it can still be played to no effect, but I'm not positive about that. Like, if I have a card that has a prerequisite, Like, let's say Hindenburg wasn't out and I had Hindenburg immunities. That requires it to play it, but I can still play it for no effect. I think that's the case with elections, but I'm not positive because of the way this is worded a little differently. Changing my mind on that, because where it talks about these, it says if an event card requires event instructions will only be implemented if they're requiring lingering event. If it has not yet been played or was played earlier, then the event is not resolved, but the card may still be played. But there's no such, first of all, it says may still be played. There's no such indication about elections, which is an interesting thing. It might mean that you need to, like, if you know that there's more elections out there, you may need to fire them off early. Coalition has an election in their hand. They're trying to decide. They don't feel like they're really in a strong position with the elections, especially Prussia's got an assassination again, so I'm not going to get those votes. So I'm actually a little worried, although I can probably survive an election right now. I don't know if I really feel like it's a great idea. Planning on playing this, which is going to allow me to do all kinds of influence actions everywhere where I have, where I have supremacy. Fuck. I don't have supremacy very many places. Okay. I thought it was dominance. Oops. Dominance would let me do all kinds of shit. Yeah, that's not as good a card as I thought it would be for me. Instead, I'm going to hold my card, and I'm going to play an attack on the communists here. I have 6 to their 2. No one else is present, so like the radical conservatives could oppose me in this and throw in favor of the communists, which would feel really weird. But they're both looking to blow the government away. So I have 2 to their 0. So I do 2 hits. That again just kills these. That doesn't give me the situation that I want it, but it does make me the momentum faction, which was kind of part of the idea here. Anything too much that I want to do with the Nazis, so I'm just throwing a reinforcing piece in there. That's going to put us to the end of the year, so we actually have to reset things here. Now the coalition resets the turn order to that. I just don't feel like playing right now. I don't know. It's part of the problem is I can't quite convince myself of the, want to play type feeling that is really what I want when I'm going into a game. Because there's plenty of games where I just don't have that feeling, right? I mean, I'm thinking about things that I played recently, not real recently, but where the game is just such a pain in the ass. I'm thinking here, War and Peace, which just wasn't doing it for me. Distant Foreign Fields or whatever. I was really kind of miserable playing it. Even Mr. President at times I was very much not into it, but this is more like me not being into Mr. President because I was really into it at times and really wanted to be sucked in. And I know this game is capable of doing that to me. It's just not doing it right now. And so I'd rather play it when it is hooking me completely. Back after a couple more hours of sleep. Keeps happening. This time I had a weird dream. I dreamed I was getting really, really, really drunk. And I woke up with the DTs and I'm like, whoa, that's weird. It's not something I'm used to having when I go out or anything. Every now and then I get kind of overly cold and everything here. It was just really weird. Anyway, let's push on with another turn. Probably just going to do one turn. I'm unhappy with the current situation. I'm going to play this card. I don't really mind it too much. The coalition becomes momentum. They're all ready, so I'm not giving them that. Then if the total number of strikes, uprisings, assassinations, plus reforms, this is why I avoided it last time, is greater than or equal to the current progress, yes, the coalition may perform one move middle class sympathies, which lets them strip one from here that I could actually take if I want. Now, I'm in kind of a nice position if I could take this. Actually, I can't. I don't have any cadres. I was going to say I can take it because it's over here, but I could take it directly from him. So it doesn't really matter for that. And then, I mean, I'm not far from victory. If I start collecting up Nazis over here, I could push 3 of them in and have a shot at winning a fight there. So I'm going to throw a couple of Nazis down here. I could just throw 2 in there, but that doesn't do it for me. The communists are playing this mass media card, which allows them to inspect a faction's hand. They chose to look at the coalition. They feel like they're competing with them the most. They're not that impressed with what they saw. I've got a couple of actions. I don't really know what to do with them. I seem to have left a couple of supremacies kicking around on the map. I'm really not sure how much I find these useful, to be honest. I don't know. Influence down in Brandenburg. He gives the communists the middle class sympathy of all people. And then we're going to march in here and attack the Nazis. Oh, these are not me. What the fuck? Okay, maybe I'm not so gung-ho on attacking. I wanted to get my momentum up. I can march in here and attack the Nazis. I don't like giving up my capability, but I want the momentum. We can't attack that because they are withheld from things. And that means we're giving up supremacy here. We have it here. Oh, there should be a Nazi supremacy there. See, I can't keep track of it. We're giving up supremacy there, but the reason we're doing it is so that we can get momentum. So we are at 6, and the Nazis are at 2. We do 5 hits to the Nazis. They do nothing to us. We wipe them out. Here. But now that doesn't terribly help us because we have no more actions to play. Goes last. They're going to play... Oh, we just had a success here. They're going to play pragmatism. Decreasing reaction by 1 box. That just takes an action away from the conservatives, maybe. But a coalition influence in each of Bavaria and Rhine province. That gives me dominance here over the communists, and we're well under the 14, and in Rhine province, well, it's not that big a deal. I got 2 more actions. I'm sitting on an election card. I can't play it now, obviously, but I'd like to pad my advantages where I can. That in down at Württemberg. My numbers are getting small again, my cubes. A lot were removed. They're showing up again. That's life. And we're going into the late year. I may play another one, but I've got to take a look at the timeline thing. Funny, I'm feeling more of the desire to play right now, so yes, I'm going to push another turn out. But I suspect it's because I don't want to go out and get my key cut. Which in and of itself isn't that bad, but I also was thinking, oh, I could go out and have... There's a Chinese buffet that's near where I'm going to get this cut. And then there's also a Korean place, both of which sound like they're tasty. I actually had some Korean dumplings last night because I was gonna do all those things. Neither the drugstore where I get my keys done, nor the Korean place were open, and I wasn't gonna cross the big street for the Chinese food. But anyway, we are on another set, and there was no change of turn order on this one. Tool of the assassinations, the fact that that spoils elections makes it a lot less powerful. Like, I'm sitting here wanting that assassination to go away, and nobody's gonna do it. The coalition could move some troops in there or something, and that would fix it. But at the end of the turn. But the only other thing, like if I had parliamentary control, I could get a clean sweep, but I don't have that because there was no election. I just feel weakened by, I've got to have a fair amount of power in Prussia, but I don't want to call elections until the assassination is gone. Shit, I cheated again. Let me take one of these away as one of my actions then, because basically that cheat was a Nazi thing. Yeah, it's very hard to remember to check the population for some reason. I generally do it, but it's just a tough thing. So I did not play a card, but I did use my Hamburg card to put a influence in there, strengthen my position, and then removed the one that I feel like I kind of owe, because I had put too many pieces in there. Just play Thomas Mann, which has no effect because reaction is higher. And then I drop a couple of cubes into Berlin, for whatever that's worth. I'm probably going to lose one of them to that. Keep in mind with the coalition, I kind of need to play these. I've gotten lucky, nobody's thrown an election. I get those cards each election, not for the entire period. So I don't have to husband them. I need to make sure I get them out before somebody decides to call an election. Key cards in the RC's favor is this referendum. I can't play it yet. And in fact, if I do, probably Article 48 will get fired off. I have the Young plan, though, that is needed for it. I've been holding off on doing this, hoping US deals would go up. They haven't gone up. I may have a card that boosts US deals, though. I'm going to try to play the whole sequence if I can. But I was thinking, oh, geez, I ought to count and see what I'm going to get. But I'm not going to get enough to win the general election that gets triggered by this. Because of the Young plan, I was able to grab control of Baden. I also grabbed control here, and then I threw another one here into Bavaria to contest that. Can I play all those? Yes. I forgot my influence. Berlin or an adjacent space allowed me here. Baden, oh fuck. Baden I was not able to put them in. Instead of this, I'll grab one of these. That doesn't do it. I need two. Fuck. Because I'm working off this click here. Fuck. Yeah, because this is actual place influence actions. I definitely want that, but I have these other two to put down. I don't know. I like doing this, but I'm going to put a clique here. That's really weak because it's right next to this. Yeah, I really don't like doing this. Similarly, putting one here would be a problem. I don't have dominance in a lot of places. I'm doing this because I'm going for the victory. And then I play the card to drop those. I put that one in. But this is a really weak position. Well, like the Nazis might get rid of one of my cliques, but they might be happy with me in this stupid position as well. There are cards that could get rid of it, but this is the only thing. I think a battle combat can get rid of a clique, can't it? I thought it could. It's only the things that are on the assault modifiers that can be killed by it. So, you know, I may just be stuck with that thing. Supremacy in a couple of places. I can do remove influences or place influences. I only have a couple of them, but that's better than I expect. So I'm going to play this at this point. Get rid of a communist here. Get rid of a communist here. And then we're going to probably play the Berlin one. I'm not thrilled with the communists, but I'm not too worried about them in Berlin. Cologne I have very little to gain from, but now I got 2 more actions. I'll clear out Baden, but he can just keep pumping back in now. But there's just not a lot I can do without fiddling with these tracks. And I don't know what I'm doing now. Like, this is the opposite of the last game in which the coalition won, but I'm also not getting certain advantageous cards, like whoever the hell they're sitting on this, Gustav Stresemann, would be very useful. Now we are at the end of a year, still no elections, and that's going to allow the conservatives to shift some things. Is to put the communists and then the coalition up there. A totally different game from the last one in so many ways. Some of it is the card play. Some of it is just the fiddling with these. Like, I was boosting the progress track up in the prior game, but now I'm like, my cards kind of work better for the elections, and I'm worried that if I concentrate on something like that, I will lose an election. Now, of course, I would probably be the second place player and could maybe, the problem with that is I could boost somebody else's electoral chances. So I might be able to be a kingmaker, but unless I fall below second, nobody's allowed to boost me. It feels kind of fucked up. It feels like you should be able to, like, prevent a victory through through throwing in together, but the only person who's able to do that, I think, is the second place player. Just make sure of that. The momentum the momentum faction. No, not the second place faction. Yeah, so right now, an election might get me an additional point, which might be enough. I think I win ties. I'm not sure. Currently, I think I win the election if it's held. But I don't know, somehow I want it to be better. I want to get a lot of those cards. But I know there's more elections, so winning one big doesn't really help me. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. 1:30 now. I just can't convince myself to head out. I made rice pudding. Yesterday I made, like I said, these dumplings and rice with them. And the leftover rice went into a rice pudding. So that was my lunch, I guess. Anyway, let's keep going. Coalition is a powerful faction in a lot of ways. Starts out with a lot of presence on the board. It's kind of dangerous to pull their stuff off. When it's getting close like it was on this last election, you're kind of in this position of, do I really, if I pick on them, I might be reducing, I might be helping someone else win the game off the next election. I'm having a hard time with the communists. They don't have any cards they particularly want to play. They don't have anything they terribly want to do. I mean, there's stuff they can do. That's not the issue. The issue is where they're most powerful. I don't know. It's they just don't really. They don't have, like, I can grab control of an area. So I was looking at either popping a couple of these off or popping a couple of these off. I think I'll go with that, and I'll go with a card just to give me a shot at taking the southern states too. I have the capacity to place cadres, and this is a card that removes them. Well, I have this one I can place. I'm kind of like, okay, this is a good card. It does nothing. My other cards all do bad stuff. The coalition could move a middle class sympathies, but they don't have any reforms. So everything's kind of, it's just a non-card. And then I'll pull these off as my action. Sure, I really want to do this, but I'm going to play the card as the card. But first, I'm going to take two actions. This, I'm going to, whoops, drop a leverage, not in here, but in Berlin, because it's going to give me momentum for that, and it gives me extra votes there. Then I can place an influence or remove an influence in Berlin. I'll take this out. That's my card, but that makes me momentum. And I don't know, but I'm becoming quite powerful in Berlin from that. Then we have Cologne. Now, I could do a move units to Cologne. Move units is to a specific area, right? No, it is not. I don't believe I'm not allowed to fire this off for that. There's not a lot I can do with this. I'll put a cube in Cologne. It may be a wasted cube, but I'm just clearing things out. Next turn I may be playing an election. Our good friends, the Nazis, get to remove a leverage from the map or from a track. I don't want to remove this because I want things to move in that direction. I certainly don't want to move any of these. I'll take this one off. And put it here because I don't want to help them. Doesn't help much. And then the economy moves towards mass unemployment. Now for my plays, I get 2. I don't have a way to get my assassination off the board. I don't know if I terribly want to. But it's kind of hard to find anything else that's appealing. All my power is over there. And I don't have a way to get the middle class support yet. So I can't go for the win. Not that I could really go for it, but I could start building up some of my brown shirts to go in against the communists. I could only go, a 3-on-3 attack. Conservative counter off, and then I added a brown shirt in there because I may want to do that eventually. I'm just not seeing myself able to get to an election win. There's no effect card. Then we're going to do a move in on the communists, losing our supremacy. And we're going to attack them. And we're at 6, the communists are at 3. We get 3 hits on the communists, we wipe them out, and the important thing for us is that grabs us momentum. It's sort of a mixed bag. We wanted the momentum more than anything else, but we didn't, might as well do some damage. Although we've now opened this up, anybody can go in there. We're at the end. It's going into late year. Let me just check to make sure nothing funky happens. I spent the day slipping in and out of the dream world, which isn't necessarily bad. And the dreams sounded exciting on a very low level. They were all about, espionage and intrigue and romance. But they also were kind of repetitive and depressing and not much fun at all. And I couldn't grab them and control them the way I sometimes can. I don't know. But I'll tell you one thing. I could not, stay awake. I just didn't want to get up and be awake and face the day, which, that's the real problem. And yes, I needed some of the sleep, but I needed a little bit of a nap at some point, a couple hours. Instead, I've been on and off for 5 hours of sleep. It's late it's early evening, let's just say. I think that's the best way to put it. All right, let's get to another turn. I made coffee. That might help me stay awake. And had a piece of bread with fake Nutella on it. How cheap I am. I could afford real Nutella. This stuff's significantly cheaper, but it is not the same. It's not as good. It's sweeter and has less hazelnut and more chocolate. And it's but it serves the purpose. But for something that's a treat, I should be willing to get, we're not talking about the difference between my cheap cigars and expensive ones, right? I mean, not even really expensive ones, but if we go to the full, we're not talking about me buying caviar here. We're talking about, it was about 30% more or something. It's not a huge amount of money. But it's just something baked into me. I just can't pay more for something that's similar in general. I have 5 cards. There's 7 turns left, I think. I think they have 5 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. None of which give them any real advantage at this point. Some of which are not good for them. I just put a cube in Berlin and say that's good enough. I have a particular interest in getting control in Berlin, but or dominance, it's not going to happen, I think. Early on, the communists felt fairly powerful, and they still have a good electoral map. It's just, I feel completely handcuffed by this hand of cards and unable to really move the ball in any direction that I want to. Coalition, I'm pressing into a situation where once again I think about, maybe I could make some sort of attack or something to grab momentum. The problem with attacks is when you make them, in order to make one, you basically have to do a move and an attack action, which means you need to play a card. I don't particularly want to play the cards. If I don't do that, the enemy just runs away or sends a wave of forces in to attack me or whatever. With the Nazis, they run away, I'm guessing, because they don't want to get beat up and lose influence and all kind of stuff. So they'll do what the communists did in one place, which was to hide their forces. I think what I see is I can place an influence here. Somebody left that open. What about that? Why didn't the communists grab it? I don't know. They didn't see it. I just did. And we're just going to take it as that. I also have 5 cards. Don't need to play any. One of them's an election. I just don't feel that potent in form of election. I'm not. I do have a lot of power in Prussia, so there's some thought about like going in and cleaning that assassination out, but there's also a sort of a I don't really care about it. Decided to play the Treaty of Berlin, but it's not taking effect yet. First, I placed these, grabbing this because why not? Then USSR deals goes up by 1. The KPD and then the coalition each get a place influence action. This is why I had to move first. Even as it stands, though, the coalition can tie me there, if they so desire. Communists went into Berlin, and that leaves me... And that was the second of the 2 election cards that I'm aware of. I'm really curious if there's one that I lost track of and accidentally put too deep in the deck. And the conservatives have finally gotten to a point where they have the momentum and can play this card, which is draw a card from the draw deck. If the active faction is momentum, they can discard it if they don't want it, as long as it's not mandatory or election. By the rules of the game, there should be no way that a mandatory or election event is in here. And it is not. And we won it. That essentially gives me an extra action, because I just got another card, which means another turn with 2 actions. I don't know what my 2 actions are going to be. I just was so excited to finally have gotten the momentum on my own turn. I could have ensured it by setting the turn order up so that I have the momentum on the first turn, but I figured I could manage this. If we got towards the end, I could force the issue. Make the choice to pump into Saxony instead of into Baden. This is going to be an early year in 27, which means we do get to arrange the order too. The problem is I'm looking at my cards on my turn. I'm not looking at them when I'm arranging the order. This is playing a solo game as opposed... In an opposed game, I would be able to remind myself. I might miss once, one turn, but I wouldn't regularly have a mechanism that makes me not pay attention to the fact that, oh yeah, I really want momentum. I've got to make a choice then. If I can win the game by playing... I can't do it. See, this is the problem. Everything requires multiple turns. Everything requires momentum. Oh wait, no, the young pack is out there. Okay, so I've got to do a quick calculation, a fake election, as it were, for the RC. Figure out if they're going to win the game, because they have the card set in their hand that they can, or the single card at this point, that they could drop that. If they don't have that, they need to be momentum faction 2 more times when they play their card. Special election I have is done a little different. Each faction adds PVs for each space on the map where it has dominance. As long as the space is free of assassination. As long as the space is free of assassination. That's different. Okay? The regional election spaces and regions listed below, free of both assassination and uprising, hold their regional election normally. But they don't otherwise, which is why Prussia is no good. But I'm going to actually be able to get points for Prussia. So I count PVs from locations, and then just each space that I have dominance. I don't count any PVs for leverage and whatnot. But then and it doesn't affect any of the parliamentary control and whatnot. But then I do get these. So that's like 3 for the momentum faction, 2 for middle class sympathies, and the coalition would get its bonus in Berlin, which it is not getting. And is it allowing... Yeah, the momentum can still give half his points away, but I'm the momentum faction, so nobody else can. So I've got to count this thing. Since normally you would use the PV counters for this, but since this isn't actually being done, I'm just going to use cubes. I'm not sure how much difference it really makes, but these PV counters give me an idea of what the last election was. It's kind of like having the last payout in an 18xx game. It helps give me some idea, but that last election was quite a while ago. I don't know how much has changed, though. A little bit. All those Prussian points that the coalition has for Westphalia and the Rhineland, they tell. These were the points before. Here's the blowout we're looking at. This looks more like, the elections in the first game, but that stupid assassination is just keeping Prussia from being in the game. Obviously, I'm in no position to win, so I'll set my momentum, my order of play, kind of as normal, but I am not at all hopeful anymore. Like, I saw these close vote totals, and I'm like, oh, if I can just squeeze a little bit more. Yeah, Prussia gave a lot of fucking points, plus the coalition grabbed Berlin. They're in power in Bavaria. They are doing really well in a lot of places, actually. So I may have no reason to play that referendum and to work towards it, but I'll keep going as long as I can keep the momentum. I'll go with the next card that allows me to put more pieces down, but I have very little hope. And the coalition's not trying to win, so it's like people are a lot less concerned about trying to stop them. The last game they won off of reforms. Well, you can't really stop them from reforms by electoral mechanisms directly. Yes, these help. They're not going to get reforms off in states. They're not going to keep reforms in states where you get parliamentary control, because you can just blast them out. The lesson of the last game was just that you have to keep the coalition from achieving too much progress, because that puts them in a position where they're almost unstoppable in terms of enacting their reforms. I think the lesson of this game is the persistence and effect of an assassination marker, especially sitting in Prussia, of all places. Everywhere else maybe is less important, but Prussia is kind of the worst place to have them. Now, the question is that doing anybody any great good? It kind of is, because there's a lot of these political value points in favor of the coalition still in Prussia. But they haven't felt that it's necessary for them to clean it up. And no one else really has the capability to do so. And because the parliamentary control never gets assigned, that's my interpretation. Maybe I'm missing something. But because the election didn't get successfully held, parliamentary control is not in place. And that's one of the ways of cleaning up the momentum. We also haven't seen just a lot of regular clean slates. It cleaned up the election once. They slowly happen. But, or after an election they get cleaned up. But, there was a reason the Nazis put it in there again, They're just like, oh, this is a useful thing for me grabbing control. But it kind of isn't, because that control didn't do any good. Oh, I don't know, man. I've seen assassinations being used all over the place in this game. They've been used heavier than in the first game. But, yeah, it is kind of interesting how... So the idea of putting an assassination in to foil Like right now, I don't think the Nazis know that they're in the lead. But if they did, of course, a lot of their points come from Prussia too, so they're probably not in the lead. If they did think they were in the lead, I could see them doing an assassination to clear a space, even if there's no immediate gain for it, to sort of freeze out a large sum of votes. So, like, I have almost no interest, I actually have no interest in the southern states. Dropping an assassination in there, might end up bringing the coalition down. The one thing, though, is the momentum faction going into an election does have that little trump card of being able to throw more votes. Of course, if they're as low as this, it's not very helpful. If they're up here, it is. So I only did one turn 1 year there. No, one turn. I am going to pause, not because I'm particularly not into playing right now. I kind of am into it, but I spent a lot of chatter, mainly associated with the game, and I had that recount, and it was a tougher turn than I expect. My pipe's almost out, my coffee's almost out. It's a good time to break, and I've got to worry. It's not getting on sunset time, but I got to do my sunset walk. I feel so shitty for just sort of snoozing the whole day away, though. Down to the exact amount of cards that I need, which means one reason you don't want to get into this position is you can no longer discard cards. But I guess I decided not to discard cards. Communists are playing this. RC gets a number of place influence actions up to current reaction, then an SDAP can place influence in a space with RC dominance. I think I want to play my pieces first to ensure that I can kind of fill in spaces if I want place influences. I'm actually going to remove influence from 2 spaces instead of placing, which means that I probably want to do it after I trigger the card. The RC placed into Baden, giving them dominance there. The Nazis are going to go in there as well. They have to pick a place where dominance is in place. And now I'm going to pick these off. Why are the communists picking pieces off the map in those cities? They have an urbanization card, which makes cities more valuable. That's why we invested in Berlin. But we're not able to get our power up in them particularly heavily. But we can ooze into them. But you know what? I don't think I could do this one. I don't have an adjacency. I don't know what my other play is. I'll be to push into Hanover so that I have access to start chipping away at this. Coalition's playing Junkers to put both an influence and a leverage marker. I took from here. Had to put it in one of these 4 spaces. I've just given them control of a space. That's terrible. It's not going to change the values significantly. It's a 1-point swing for them, so their victory card doesn't matter. Not that I know about that, but I wanted to drop that first before I take my own turn. I don't know what I'm going to do with my turn. I'm going to hold off on the election until late year. I might play it this turn, although if I'm going early, it may not be that big a deal. And I need to prepare for that election. How do I do that? Let me take these off. I'm so low on cubes, I don't want to be placing cubes. I don't want to be in a position where I have no cubes to play. These burn a card that would be useful at pulling middle-class sympathies off the coalition. I got a number of things that do this. This is the least effective, and I jump into Baden. He's going to place this card, but they're going to play first into Bavaria. That's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then this allows them, as a momentum faction, to perform a combination of place influence, remove influences equal to the difference between progress and react. Oh no, that's not going to give me anything. Fuck. Never mind. Instead, I'm going to place 2 cubes in there. The difference was negative, by the way I'm interpreting the card. The coalition now can perform one move middle class sympathies action. There's only one thing I can do with that. That's to pull this down. I could have grabbed it, but I need 2 of them for me to get any kind of real advantage off of it, and I'm not sure how much advantage there is to pushing north right now, which is what it would add up to. That if the coalition has parliamentary control in Berlin, they do not. They have dominance in Berlin, but they don't have parliamentary control. Oh wait, they do. Fuck, I was wrong about that. They can remove an opponent's influence from Berlin. Well, that's fine. I don't mind them doing that. And that puts me to the end. We flip over to late. It's getting close to time for me to go for my walkies, and I make sure that nothing special happens, but I think nothing does. It has seemed incredibly static to me. Like, not a lot has moved around in the Golden 20s. Last game, a lot happened in this period. I think it's showing off, though, that the game can present very, very different situations based on the cards you get and whatnot. You know, I mean, it's just not seemed attractive to me for the coalition to go after progress. That's not simply because I know that the radical conservatives will feel duty-bound to knock it out. It's had more to do with, look, I'm at low unity, yes, I'd have to work for that, and I'm just struggling. I put a lot of leverage into the economy to keep it from collapsing. It collapsed last game. That worked out well, but it only worked out well because I got away with the progress. And the way people are positioning themselves and worried about the elections more is just different. It feels different, this game. Not about that, about the elections, has to do with the close totals here. It feels like the game's about to fall to an automatic election win. And yeah, with Prussia knocked out, that kind of is the case. Could I just go in, park somebody there on this late turn? I mean, I could just put this up in there. Other things would be harder, and thus clear out that and open up the big Prussian election, which I'd like to have. So maybe I do that in conjunction with an election. The election's going to clean sweep it anyway, yeah. But the point is, I get the parliamentary control then, I get the extra votes. Not that the votes are significant in and of themselves, but the parliamentary control allows me to at least kill off one assassination. But I kill off an assassination and somebody can place it again. You know, it just goes back and it's available to knock out a couple more influences. Midnight on Tuesday, I'm getting, you know, 1 period per day or so, which I think is okay. It's kind of like doing 1 turn a day in a CDG, honestly, in a lot of ways. The periods are a little longer than a turn in a CDG, I guess. Same amount of cards, but it feels like the decision making may be a little harder. And there's a little bit of mechanical cleanup, but not that much. The elections are maybe the biggest thing. Anyway, where am I? We are in the late. I don't know if that's right. We should be going into the early of 28, to be honest. Because the communists have 4 cards, and I know they were packed right up against the edge and didn't have a way out of it. Everybody else, I guess, is pretty much at 4 cards except this. that means I have to choose the order, which apparently I did not do. Probably be the same, but I'm not sure. I wanted to talk a little bit about my weirdness in real life. So, again, I went out for my. It's like midnight going into Tuesday right now. It actually probably is Tuesday by now. But I went out for my sunset walk, whatever, and it was a little one, not too exciting. But when I got back, two things. One, it was obvious my light is still working just fine. I don't know what happened to stop it from working. I don't know what's happened to stop the one out here from working properly. But they're set on a motion sensor, but it's on the stay on setting. Both of them are. One of them does, one of them doesn't. The one that does right now had stopped for about a week or two. I don't know, at least 2 weeks. And now it just started up again. The other thing, though, and we talked about that yesterday, the other thing, though, is much more of a weird sort of mystical thing, but always they're within bounds, right? Except for when buildings move. And cobs, but I believe that those may be issues of memory or vision or whatever. When I was very young, not tiny young, but in my early to maybe mid-teens, I was asking for a sign at one point, and I think it was November, and a firefly showed up in my room. Now, fireflies shouldn't exist at that time of year. I mean, I think it was early November, but it was like just obscene that one would be flying around. But, physically possible. Tonight, I thought I saw one on the ground. There was something flickering, very much like a firefly would. Color seemed a little off, but there are no fireflies here. That would again be highly, there are none beyond the Rockies as far as I know. There's some bugs that are related to them, but they don't, and there are other things that glow. Well, it wasn't. It was some weird little ball, about the size of a cube, to be honest, maybe a tiny bit bigger. And it just flickering. Some kind of technological device or whatever. I put it to mark a way on my path on the way back. But it did remind me of that, and feels like I've never seen one of these, but there are other things that are kind of like it. Just little things that light up. Somebody had a little a fake candle type thing on a log, which I don't count in any way near this, but this reminded me of that and feels like it was just as important. Anyway, I'm going to figure out what my ordering should be, because I'm pretty sure this was going into the 28 year. Play urbanization. This stays all game. It adds bonus PVs for dominance in Berlin, +2, and +1 for each other city. That's why we were trying to import into cities, but it's not working very well. But I figured I'd play it anyway. It's not going to really hurt me, I think. I don't know. It increases the coalition, but I don't think I'm going to win off of an election. But I did put 2 cubes into Berlin to strengthen my position there. Of course, the coalition can knock me out and add cubes on another turn or something. They can knock anyone out, and no one can knock them out. So, kind of confuses me is if it had been a late turn last turn, I think I would have played an election. I'm not positive of that for the momentum gain. Never removed, although it can be canceled by a card. This gives the communists the capability to build troops anywhere where they have presence, which they don't normally have. But I'm going to take one of their pieces out of there because I don't know. I want Berlin. And then I don't know who I'm most worried about. I am allowed to do this because I'm the one with supremacy, not him. So I'll take this out because I want Bavaria. With it for cards, instead I'm playing an election. That'll be an election instead of the one that they have. That'll give me momentum. And again, I would have rather played it on a last turn, but I'm worried about how many election cards there are. I don't remember. I know how many there are out, but I don't remember how many there's supposed to be, so I'm trying to play it that way. This prevents the other election card from being played. He's played the Frankfurt School, which moved them, the communists, to democratic by 1 space. And, oh, they don't have middle class sympathies. Never mind. That got lost. They would have gotten a place influence or remove influence if they did, but that gives me 2 Nazi actions. I know there's an election on, so I might as well try to improve my position as best as I can. Don't know what that'll be. Moved a conservative cube there. Not that it matters too much. And I'm trying to remember what my other one is. Actually, instead of that, I'm going to remove it here. But I can't place there. I know I put another one. Oh, I think I put one. Yeah, no, that can't be. I don't know. I managed to gain another location. I know that. I think this one. I'm not sure. Lancy, because I really had to pee. So I don't remember what I did precisely. I think I removed a cube from here. So, wait, no, I don't know. Once again, the RC has to see if they can automatically win the game. I don't think anything's changed significant enough to do so, but... It's definitely looked different on this one. I used the counters this time. This is probably pretty close to what the election's going to be. It doesn't have all the points for the election. Let me look at that card. But I'm certainly not going to be able to catch the coalition, so I'll hold on to that card. Hey, I don't even have momentum anymore. How about that? Screw you. I don't know. My chances of getting momentum are so low. But let me see how many pieces I want to play. How many actions I want to take. I can take power away from the communists. I don't really care. What I really care about is, can I gain any political advantages anywhere? I'm looking at the fascists rather, or the Nazis rather than the conservatives here. I got to think about the other side. A middle class sympathy. I don't think there's anything I could win. I mean, there are things I could do. I could do assassinations. That might actually be of interest. Am I losing anywhere where that would really help me? It would be possibly a way for me to win this. It would knock Bavaria out. And I don't know that that's all that worthwhile. I'm not even sure I can place it there. Yeah, you can kind of place them anywhere you like. That's the problem. I think I'll go for the middle class opinion. And that brings us to sudden victory, but then to the election pool. And this is a real election. I'm going to slip this under the deck because when I rebuild the deck, like for storage or whatever, I want all the special cards that get shuffled into the top of the deck to be somewhere else. not in the discard pile where I have to hunt through a bunch. Although I'm going to have to hunt through the draw pile pretty heavily. An idiot in just allocating points. I got to pay attention and hand out cards and whatnot. Here are the totals with the coalition keeping the game alive. Gained control of Bavaria. Elsewhere, the Conservatives gained the southern states. That's about it. And the Reichstag seats are still in the Nazis' hands. That's going to flip this over. It's going to be a late year, so we pump these back. And I'm feeling exhausted already. Or at least that malaise that makes me not want to play. Again, Prussia did not get handed out to anyone. Munich is now tied. Prussia not getting handed out meant that the leverage here went away, because leverage doesn't count for dominance, and so they did not have dominance, but the leverage here gets to stay, which may or may not be a good thing. I can't put it on the progress track. I'm short on leverage. I have none available to me. That's because I've got them all on the economy. Trying to avoid hyperinflation, that is particularly painful for the coalition. But honestly, I kind of don't want to go into mass unemployment either. And these are all used up on that. And that's part of why I can't win, is that I'm trying to stabilize the economy more than I was in the prior game. Yeah. Open things up with an overseas loans. The coalition can move one middle class. Well, I'm allowed to. And UF Steel is level 2 or greater. It is. They can perform one place influence or remove influence. Okay. That's cool. Nazis out of Baden. Now, the communists want to play that because they know there's at least one more, and they probably think there's two more, because that's what I think. Election cards. There's only actually one, but that's out. But whatever. An extra influence in one of these areas that they're relatively strong in. That's fine. Actually, I'll put it... I don't know, I can get tied anywhere, so it really doesn't matter. Then for my other action, for my two actions, I am going to clear these two and regain control in the south there. It feels pretty comfortable. It's not going to lose the game. Doesn't really think it can win more elections easily. It could play around on them, but instead what it's going to do, it's going to grab a middle class, and I'm going to pump one more of these up. I don't get this leverage yet, but it's available. That goes there. This is a bit of a problem. I don't want to send it any further, but what it means is once we hit the decline, this is our minimum box. I can start stripping leverage out of here as well and put it back on the board and then utilize it for progress or something. Or shift it over here. Also use my parliamentary control in Berlin to clear this out. I don't think that leverage goes away because I have power there. I played a garbage card. What did I just do? Clean sweep is what I gotta look at. Remove leverage if there's no dominance or parliamentary control. They're both there. So that's powerful. The Nazis are playing an election again. Go back here. That makes us the momentum faction on a late turn. They removed a counter from here and placed another counter into here. Reichstag seats, which is important. I want to hold this for possibly clearing, doing a clean slate, rather than any of the other. The other effect is the coalition box moving towards fragile momentum. Maybe if I really need it, but I want to do this. I got parliamentary control in Hamburg. I'll remove this. I've got a guarantee control there. there's not much I can do. And since I just played an election, that's going to come back to me. They're in kind of an ugly position in terms of cards. I'm going to play the Gustav Strassmann because it doesn't hurt me that much at this point. That ups the unity here. It can't go any lower. This will go away at the end of the era. But it means that yellow leverages are worth 4 extra political value during a regional election. Now, I don't know if that is... Yeah, I think that's going to replace the leverage normally, which means for my special card, it wouldn't take effect, but I'm not going to win with that special card anyway, I'm pretty sure. And I still have a couple of pieces to play. Put them here. One of them's going into here so I can try to regain. Actually, I have the Southern States card, so I got to decide what I'm up to, because I could play in there, gain control of that. Let's dominate those Southern States more. I'll put one. See, I can get this one. I can only get one of those two. I'm more worried about the Nazis. So I will put 2 cubes in there. And I'll put a cube here. I could take away a cube there instead. Either way. But that is, I think, the best I can do. That pushes us to the election. We'll run through it. I ran through an election in the first game. It's really just a mechanical matter of adding up points. But we are at a new one. Just before the election is performed. No, I don't need it. There's no value to me playing this. That's a shame. Okay. The Prussian regional election. This is where the score looked. This is what Prussia got. And with the coalition and the Nazis tied there, no one has control of Prussia anyhow. I thought the Nazis were going to get it. Well, no, I honestly thought the coalition was going to get it. But the Nazis have powered their way up a little bit. We got to add these votes, but it doesn't matter too much. 29-17 for the Nazis. 7 for the Conservatives. So there's our actual vote totals. Coalition wins again. They did not play their Article 48. I don't know what they might have canceled. I don't know that they got hurt between the last elections. Reichstag seat stays with the Nazis. What else? We have a clean sweep. I don't think anything is changed by that. Or clean slate. The yellow leverage can stay because we have dominance and parliamentary control. There are no other leverages. Anything else? Well, the momentum faction is the Nazis. They could give 8 points to someone, but they'd lose 8 points. They could boost the coalition up. There's no reason to do it. It doesn't help them. And now they get to choose the new order, force the coalition to go first out of everyone. We want to go last for various reasons. Search of the Golden 20s deck, because nobody has any draw capabilities or whatever, so I don't really care. And yes, there was another election hidden in there. I thought there were 3 for this period. Well, only 2 showed up. that actually fits more to what I wish the game were. I feel like there are too many forced elections and that players have no real control over them, whereas between the four players, essentially the decision on how many elections there are should be controlled by them. They should be able to prevent them. Now, whose hands should that be in? That's a good question. Article 48 in and of itself wouldn't allow you to cancel an election. But who's declaring the elections? It's the president. The president's not really a member of any of the parties. It's Hindenburg. Although he's aligned with the conservatives, he certainly, it makes sense that he'd have his own schedule for them, but it doesn't really make sense to me that there would be exactly the number of elections that there were in that particular period, because it's not. So the elections have to be called every 4 years. There's no mechanism to force that, right? There should be a last election marker, and 4 years later, if an election hasn't happened, one will be forced to happen. And then some capability of the players to control whether or not an additional election gets put in, or something along those lines. That would be the better simulation in place. I'm a little disturbed by the random, by the fact that there are X amount of elections in a period just because that may have been the historical amount that were called. That the snap election doesn't feel particularly different from the elections you know about, except it's one that you don't know about. And I don't know if that's in this card. I think it's only in the decline deck. There's just a number of things about it. It feels like the actual elections are closer to snap elections the way they're played, because you can call them at any time. Maybe the snap election happens not during the election phase, but I think it does. I'm not positive about that. In which case, yeah, it would prevent anyone from being able, it would prevent possibly some of the players in the turn order from being able to jump in. But I really feel like elections generally probably were scheduled in advance enough that people could react to them to some extent, even if it's just campaigning and whatnot, that it doesn't really feel right that probably the momentum player, the person in the final position in the turn, has as much power as they do in the elections. It just feels off to me. It's not enough to dislike the game by any means. And that will put me into the last year of the period. I got 2 more turns in that last year. Everybody's expecting another election, but it's not going to happen. And that's cool. So, do I want to go on? Sure. Playing this. This is going to be a never removed card. KPD can select spaces with KPD presence to place units. Okay. It can disappear due to another card being played. I got to be careful about what I sweep up in this next period. We're going a little further this game. What does the coalition want to do? I don't feel like I can win by doing reforms. I don't feel like the auto victory is going to be possible going into the decline period. So I'm going to continue the strategy I've been doing, which is just to keep boosting my economics. Well, keep my economics in good shape and keep boosting the electoral position. But which do I go with, right? I still have too many options. This would be one of those too many options to go with. I can't pick up a middle-class voter unless I push forward, so fuck that. But I think I want to start building up this. And the other will be an electoral, and I'm going to play something probably in Bavaria to remove I'll remove a coalition here, or a conservative there, and then Is there anywhere where I'm kind of close? Let's get rid of a Nazi here. Conservatives have two cards, neither of which I really like. This one does nothing right now. It will only do something if progress is above reaction, and coalition doesn't seem to have any interest in creating progressive legislation. The referendum is my kind of special win condition. Pretty sure I'm not going to get that. I can look at the situation and say I'm not going to win an election anymore. I mean, yes, I have a good deal of votes in Prussia. If I could, maybe do an assassination somewhere else, I could reduce some of the votes that the coalition's getting, but it's not going to be by enough. Although an assassination in Berlin, if I'm allowed to do that, would actually reduce them by some 10 points, but I'm still just not going to make the distance that I want to make. So I think I keep playing politics as well. This stupid bug is pissing me off. Are they like fucking on there? Or is that just... It's just one. Southern states to do something, I don't remember what. Strengthen my position, maybe here, but I don't think so. I flipped it over, so I must have done some. Oh no, I guess here. And then I went into here and canceled this out. Now, there are other things I might have wanted to do. First of all, I got leverage, which I can play more freely, perhaps, than my influence. So, for example, I can't play up in this area, even though I have, some political influence there. I can't do it because I don't have a clique there. I would have to get reaction way up. That's not possible. Assassination, interesting idea. How valuable, I don't know. And then another thought was to march on Berlin, but I don't get to fight this, so I couldn't actually attack it. And I don't really have anywhere to attack. This is a problem. I want someplace to attack so I could get the momentum, so that's out of my hands. I could do something like shoot up the Nazis here, but instead I placed into here because that's not far from my clique. Northern states, because again, I'm expecting there to be another election, I guess. I don't know, even though, whatever. I'm playing the Schutzstaffel. That's going to make the Nazis a little stronger in any assaults. It's just like an extra strength point, basically, to any assault they perform. That's fine. This one, again, is never going to go away. So there are a number of these that are not just this era. That's an interesting factor. This is the communists doing this. I don't know what I want to do with my communist actions. Again, the idea of working my way towards a revolution seems really, really tough. Things might get a lot worse, but I also get more political power as the unemployment increases. So I don't know what the deck is like at all, which I like going into games like this without knowing what the decks really are. But in terms of like playing strategically or whatever, I'm definitely able to play better once I kind of know what the structure of the deck is likely to be, especially the mandatory cards and whatnot. There's a fair number of cards that I'm just never going to see. This deck did not hand me a lot of card exchange capabilities, which the first deck, certainly in the first game, but even in this game, gave some. Worried about the Nazis at this point. They're doing quite well. We'll take two of their counters out of there, giving me, dominance in a space. We're going to take a middle class sympathies away, taking away their ability to fix their whatever the hell it is. What do I need cadres for? I need cadres to work for my sudden victory. Feels hard for me to get supremacy in locations. I have supremacy here, and with better Nazis, maybe I can do okay and work towards that. If that was the case, then I would need to grab a cadre. This one's not available to me. He's not able to move this. So the only cadres I have available are these, which are a long walk away, and then a long walk back to do a pooch. Which leads me to think that what I want to do is play the political game, which is the historical. Put those cubes back in Prussia. I'm hoping the coalition is just going to go into collapse in the decline period. Like, if they can hold this kind of situation, sure, this is their best period, and it's going into what's probably their worst period, but especially since if we can get the economy down, both the communists and the Nazis end up getting more political influence with each of their moves. Is the cadre important? I don't know. I'm not really bought into the democracy. The cadre to me so far appears to be something that allows me to play with middle class sympathies, which is valuable, and maybe I want to work towards that. But again, it's a long fucking walk, and I have assassinations available. I mean, I have one anyway, but I have more assassinations available if I don't make that walk. And those might help me, especially if I'm holding the Reichstag seats of second place. That puts us going into the late turn. I would normally like to finish up a turn like this. My battery's running low, my pipe's running low, my tea's so-so. It's a good time for me to break. It's not a great time in the game. The coalition maybe should have thrown away. It's not a mandatory, but it's a lasting effect. The NSDM AP, when their momentum, their remove influence and place influences allow them to place or remove 2 influence jets. This is the same as their ability here, and I don't think they stack in any way. So, I'm guessing that if they get to the full mass unemployment, that they can use that instead of this. I'm not sure. But it is a cancelable card. It's never removed otherwise. And, they may become a little bit more powerful. I don't really want to get rid of it, But what I do want to do is get rid of this, because why not? Don't want other people in Berlin. I'm happy there. And then I guess I get a couple of actions I'll report. I don't think I had this right. So that would be 2 extra PV for, I don't think there's another election, but 2 extra PV for control of Berlin for the coalition. And the other cities were each 1. So that was Cologne, Munich, and Hamburg. It doesn't really change anything. It's hard to recall everything that's out here. So like somewhere or another, so this is a biggie, that the Rogue Freikorps are powerful. That's going to go away, and it took a while to show up. I did count this one because I had just played it. Which was the yellow leverage advantage. The election's out. I think I'm actually going to remove a leverage and put it over here. I'm more worried about the mass unemployment happening. Fucked up with the coalition, who's going next. I think they wanted to play this card, and they did. it had no effect. Or I played the effect out. Yeah, I played this one because I noticed there are 2 cards. Now I have the referendum. If they're going to win, which I don't think they are, but I'll calculate it out again, then Article 48 will come into play. It is a calculable thing. I don't feel like you want to declare, like, it doesn't really make sense to declare it at that point. But I want to see the points and then also make a consideration, hey, can I do something to force the win? Does Article 48 come out because of that? La, la, la. Okay, this pisses me off. The referendum card says if they're the momentum faction. They're not, so it actually won't have any effect. But I want to go into what pissed me off. Well, actually, I want to calculate it just to make sure that I don't want to grab the momentum, because I could actually grab momentum just as an action. If they're the momentum faction, immediately conduct a general election. If they win the election, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't anywhere say that they don't get the bonus points. Now, I looked it up in the rules before, but I looked at this and I'm like, wait a minute, that's different. If I was just looking at this card, I wouldn't look at this. Yes, there's a rules reference here, but this must have been played as well. Cards lying all over the place in wrong places. But, you know, just because there's a rules reference, I feel like, yeah, that's helpful to tell me where to look, but there should be some further hint, such as must see or something like that. I don't know. Like, it shouldn't even say this. It shouldn't have, like, if there's not enough room to put the text on the card, well, first of all, I don't know. They seem to have a desire to make all the cards with a single white band going through the middle. And, well, no, they didn't do it with this one, and they left lots of extra space on this one, so I don't know what's going on. These cards are, I think, at a different... They're slightly off in terms of their printing. So they could have played around with this. Anyway, I'm very pissed off about this because the rules on the card are not what the rules in the book are, and there's nothing on the card other than the rules reference to let you know. That may seem like enough because there's almost no rules references on anything else, but I'm someone who very much believes that if there's anything kind of funky, a rules reference is necessary. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to look something up if there is a rules reference on it. Yeah, I feel like this card actually needs a little bit more on it. Either it could have an extra line in here, but again, they're really eating up the space on here. This already ate up a lot of space. Then they have the requirement. Then they have the number on the card. Personally, yes, all that stuff is useful, but they could have made the picture a little smaller. Did they need all this dark space up here? I don't know. As I thought, this is the point allotment. Only the RC is in competition with anyone for this, with whoever's in the lead. There's no shifting of points or anything like that. I'm nowhere near. So I'm going to just play it to allow me to put 2 actions in play. Something I didn't mention. The assassinations for the RC are kind of as normal. But the Nazis, once there are 2 conservative cliques on the map, get a bonus assassination if there's another marker available to them. So they can play one assassination and another one. And that second one, no matter what, they'll be targeting the conservatives and get rid of the clique. So Now, this is an option, isn't it? Nope. It is not an option. Huh. Yeah, so but I can't force that. It's just, that's something that'll happen if the Nazis do an assassination. I don't know what I'm doing with the conservatives right now. Actions were a move action. I moved this in here. That took the supremacy out. That's going to come back, and this is kind of complicated, very shortly, because Hindenburg is the one who's putting those up to a 3. I don't remember when Hindenburg dies. I thought it's in like 32 or something like that, but he actually goes away at the end of this era. He may be less influential than he was. But I also moved into here. I'm going to use my second action to launch an attack here. That allows me to check this. And that's a huge bonus. I'm at 9-4 now. Because Hindenburg ups them to 3 each. So I do 8 attacks, or 8 hits. They do 3. Now I get one of these back, but 8 is 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I wipe the coalition out of there, and there's, go back here. Now they will probably want to use these rather than the untested guys, but maybe they have reasons to put untesteds in there if they're far away from where the conservatives are. That gets me a momentum shift, which is part of what I wanted from that. If the card had been in effect, I would have been able to trigger it, but, or if it had been effective, but then it would get canceled by Article 48, and great, you know, whatever. Just do not like the card they're going to play. They'll probably play it after they take their action in case they want to knock out some conservatives. But the RC can perform 1 place unit or 1 test coalition loyalty for each space with RC supremacy. Now, I don't think there's any loyalty I can test. I think everything's been flipped. But I don't want to put them in a position where they can create supremacy in additional spaces. If I burn this card, or hold on to it, if I burn the card, I don't get an action. If I just hold on to it, I at least get an action. But in either case, I'd get a penalty for the next era, so I don't want that to happen. And this is why I was saying, yeah, maybe I should have, you know, made a decision to burn some of these cards early. She's control of Bavaria now that the conservatives like wiped out the coalition, and also dropped a piece in Berlin. Why not? Now this, place 1 unit or test coalition loyalty. Where am I allowed to place? Well, per. So how much supremacy do I have? I have 1, 2, 3, not here. So I'll get to do 3. There's no loyalty test, so I get to put my 2 units down. Placing unit is in a space with control or dominance. I don't have either here nor here. What do I have? The southern states I have control in. Some of them have dominance. There's nothing I auto attack. Put them down here in Saxony. That gives me a flexible alignment with other pieces, so that might be cool. Actually, I could grab supremacy in a couple of spaces. I think I'll do that. I think I'll grab supremacy here and here, because that feels neat. Communists already went. It's on to the Nazis. It's also marked with the 48, so it could be a powerful one. Subtract the current progress level from 4, that's 3. Move that many middle-class sympathy pawns from the coalition mat to any open holding boxes. Well, there aren't any, so it means nothing. I think the bot would trigger this no matter what, even if the card wasn't going to have an effect, which feels kind of cheap to me. There's everything there to put Nazis into that location. I don't know. I'm certainly not wanting to attack. That uses me up. I don't have an attack because of that. I could have tried an attack here, but I mean, if I wanted to do that, I would have had to put the pieces down there to try to grab momentum or whatever. I don't think the momentum's that important to me right now. I think what's important is getting control of these things. 2 cities having supremacy allows me to win if I have more middle-class sympathies in the RC. I'm hoping maybe a card will give that to me. Right now I don't have the supremacy here. I do have it here. And my chances, as soon as Hindenburg comes off, will be better. And in fact, that's what we're doing. We're getting rid of... There's a mandatory card. There's a mandatory card that goes away. This one goes away. But we have a shit ton of cards that are going to stay on the board. And we also, well, we do things in order, but we're also going to get rid of, I don't know what happens. Let's see. Advanced Timeline isn't going to do anything exciting. New Year's Step, it is 1930. It says shift economic to rightmost dollar dependence. I think that happens right now. Yes. The momentum faction then returns all economy track leverage to empty holding boxes. Oh, I wasn't paying attention. All of these go back. Now, when it says the momentum faction does it, it's just his task to do this. But he also gets to pick where he puts them. Doesn't really make much difference unless some of these go bad. So I should not have been wasting leverage to try to protect against the mass unemployment. I thought I was being clever. No, I was being really stupid, but that's okay. That's what the cost is to trying to be clever. We got the turn order, and we continue to new era, where we hand out the new cards. Hey, I get to keep looking at their hand because I'm not going to remember now. Is that a good solution? Not really, because they could have drawn new cards through various means, but I never took advantage of it. Those kind of cards tend to be pretty useless for me in solo play, the peek at somebody's cards, because I'm not going to remember when it comes back around what they had, and I tried to do that as something, but I didn't remember to look either. I don't even think I looked the first time. I didn't really care. Maybe I did. And there's my turn order. I've decided the Nazis are the biggest threat, so I'm pushing them up first, but I want to weaken the coalition so I can try to win the game myself. And then the communists, they're in the doldrums. They looked like they were doing so well early in the game. None of these things unflip or anything like that. They're just governed by the elections, and it's time for me to build a new deck. be a lot easier, and I don't know if there's a good reason that it's not this way, if the little mandatory thing were on the elections. That's why I didn't catch all the elections. Might be willing to say that's okay. Again, I'm not so thrilled about the elections being forced in. Am I so sure that I'm absolutely convinced the mandatories have to be it? Yeah, I don't know. Again, I could see creating a deck, generating the starting decks for each era, where there's a little bit of chance that things aren't in there. Whether one of the best ways to do that is to make the starting deck bigger, the top part of the deck a little larger, so that all the cards don't get handed out. Is there another way? Another way would be to put an election card in the non-starting part of the deck, and just shuffle it in with it, which is essentially what I did. I put 2 elections in, apparently, and left one uncontrolled because of this, and I absolutely don't mind if that happens. The mandatories, it's not going to match the history as well, but if there's a minor chance that they're not in there, I kind of like it. But I want it to be better than, like, they're the top card of the rest of the deck or something like that. So, yeah. I mean, I want to make that starting deck bigger so that there's some chance that maybe none of the mandatories and none of the elections are in there if a really horrible deal comes out. But mainly so that if you're exchanging cards or something, you're not guaranteed one of those mandatories or an election, which may be a bone. If you're getting something that somebody has to play no matter what. Now, I gotta say, the mandatories that were in this deck, in the last deck, and maybe in the first deck as well. There was only one. I don't really remember. But those were all ones that it was very helpful to control when they get played. If you're the faction that wants that card, man, putting it out early could be a big deal, and it really helped the coalition in the first game. If you're a faction that doesn't particularly want it, well, it's a nice way to kind of damage one of your opponents. Realized I'm trying to build the crisis deck from the first period. That's not what I want. I want the decline deck. Interesting. Von Papen allows the play of von Schleicher appointed and Pruschenschlagen. If he's the only thing that allows those, wow, he's not mandatory. So some key events may not be available, or may not be available early, because of his card not being mandatory. Another one of these, Hindenburg, he is the only thing that allows Hitler to be sworn in without winning an election. Yeah. So 24 cards get drawn. 19 are going to go into the deck. 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So all of the cards that are mandatory or elections are going in the deck. Again, I kind of see why you want that with something like this, and that's where I'm worried about. This card, actually the Von Papen, I think, getting rid of Von Papen is required, requires this. And some other things as well that, maybe you really need in the game. So him being out of the game would be a problem, which is kind of then I'd have to do all kinds of weird stuff if I was constructing a deck where he might, I was constructing the top of the deck and he might not be in the top. That would be problematic, possibly. So I don't see a real answer. Like, I feel like the mandatories are more important. The elections, I'm really, really fuzzy on. So maybe the best thing is to throw one election into the main deck, which it still has a good chance of showing up. They're all dealt, and we're ready to go into the decline, which kind of excites me. And I'm going to swap batteries on this and load it up.